Welcome to the Dental Implant Practices Podcast, where each episode will explore how to integrate dental implants into your practice and into bone, with your host, Dr. Philip Gordon.
Hey guys, welcome to the Dental Implant Practices Podcast. This is my first podcast. My name is Philip Gordon. I am a general dentist in the Kansas City area, Leawood, Kansas to be specific. I want to focus on how to integrate dental implants into your practice and into the bone. My goal is to break through the barriers in implant dentistry for the general dentist. I have nothing to sell you, and I'm just hoping to get quality content out of current leaders and to try to get more implants placed in the general practices. What we're going to do here today is talk about why I want to do this podcast, what I hope to get out of it, who I am as a dentist, and what I do, and hopefully why you should keep listening to this podcast. So first, what we want to talk about is my story. I am a second-generation dentist. My father is a dentist and currently still practicing. I graduated from UMKC Dental School in the year of 2009. And after that, I went to join the busy private practice of my father. This was a good experience for me, kind of like a built-in GPR. I got to jump into a busy private practice, but also have some guidance and mentorship from my father while learning the hard way how to do dentistry and bill and code and try to make patients happy and pick up my clinical experience. So at first, when I got out of school, my goal was to never place an implant. I graduated never having any experience placing implants and really never wanted to place implants. I always thought I'll just refer those to oral surgeons and I'll just restore them. And for almost 2 years, I was happy to do that. I liked oral surgery in the traditional basic sense, as I like to extract teeth. I like blood. I like the challenge, but was never really taught any bone grafting or implants in school. So my knowledge on those bone grafting and implants was very basic, and really it just kind of scared me. And I thought that's not anything a general dentist should be doing. Now looking back, that was kind of foolish. So the first 2 years I just spent referring implants to specialists and extracting all the teeth that I could get my hands on. During this time, I also did a lot of root canals. I saw the successes and failures of my root canals and others, and I tried to do a lot of hero odontics and save every tooth I could. Whether or not it was a good move at that point, I guess we'll see. But I thought, better to fix a sick tooth than to try to pull it and put an implant into it based upon my experience of fixing teeth with root canals and build-ups and crowns. That's all I knew. But the more I saw these compromised teeth come back with more trouble, I thought, there's got to be a better way. But my frustration would come in when patients didn't want to go see a specialist or didn't understand the benefit of a dental implant, or would go see a specialist and the specialist would charge X amount of money for a consult and twice that amount for a CBCT, and then recommend treatment that was too expensive from a provider they didn't have trust with. And so the patients would come back and we would either do a bridge or something different. And so a lot of treatment planned implants were going by the wayside. They were not happening in my practice because, one, I didn't treatment plan them with confidence, and two, there was a disconnect between the specialist gap and the general dentist gap. And I think that's probably true in a lot of dental practices today. So the breaking point for me was, why did I get into implant dentistry? I wanted to expand further and close that gap. And one day, when I got a implant back from a periodontist specialist in the major metro area that I practice in, the implant was in bone perfectly and there was no problem osseointegration. But the interface and the angle was such that to restore it was going to be a nightmare. When I put the impression pin in, it stuck out facially, and this was a number 12 implant right in the smile zone. I thought this is going to be a restorative nightmare. And when I looked at the case, it should have been a slam dunk. Plenty of bone, plenty of vertical. The ideal was perfect for an implant, and there just didn't seem to be any care or thought for the after restorative end on it. And I thought, this is frustrating. I wonder how hard is this, and could I have done better before I start pointing fingers at the periodontist that placed it. So I thought, I want to look into this implant dentistry. And that kind of lit a fire underneath me to learn something new. I was getting tired of seeing these old teeth with root canal and buildup and crown, break off at the gum line and not have a better solution for patients. So began my training and dedication to figure out how to place these implants. What really was going on. I had received flyers in the mail and seen courses at places about implants, but most of them seemed too complicated, too expensive, and really just too far over reach. So what I did was reach out to all of the major implant companies. We have a rep for all the big companies in town, which is one of the benefits of living in a big city. And I called them all in for an appointment, said, I want to meet with you and talk with you about your implant systems. And what I did was I said, I want to start placing implants. I think the need is there. I think I can surgically, learn to place implants, but I'm looking for an implant system that will provide me CE, continuing education, to learn to place more implants. I didn't want to do anything I wasn't trained and comfortable with. And I thought, who better to partner with than the implant company whose product I would be buying. I thought surely they're going to want me to buy more implants, so they would help me find training. And I couldn't have been further from the truth. Actually, the obstacle I ran into was that most of the major implant companies really had little to no CE for the general dentist, unless it was diagnosis or treatment planning. And then they expected you to then at that point ship them out to the specialist, the periodontist or the oral surgeon, which they were working more hand in hand with, and what they considered to be their real bread-winning kind of partners and accounts, I guess. So they weren't willing to rock the boat with their big accounts or the specialists to teach, little old general dentists down the street how to place implants. So, I told all the major brands, I'm not buying your stuff because you don't have a great CE outline for general dentists. What I ended up doing was taking a couple of hands-on with models implant lectures that showed me as a general dentist taught by another general dentist with a smaller implant company how to learn, diagnose, and go through the motions of placing implants. I wasn't accustomed to the implant motor or the drill speeds or the osteotomes or the ratchet sets or really any of the information other than restoring implants. So it was a pretty foreign language to me at this point. But I knew my dedication and commitment was high, so I knew if others had done it, so could I. And so began my journey on becoming a implantologist. I didn't want to just do it halfway. I wanted to do it all the way. So I researched some courses and learned how to place implants kind of the old-fashioned way. I would, cherry pick my courses and cherry pick my cases and just had to get over the hump. But I still found quite a bit of barriers to run into with finding good CE for major implant systems that would teach a general dentist how to successfully place implants. And that's where my biggest problems were. Part of the issue, as I saw it, was none of the major implant companies really wanted to go out on the line and say they were going to go in and help general dentists, as they have too much money and support backed into specialist training. So lack of training is one of the major hurdles that a dentist faces getting into implant dentistry, whether it be restoring dental implants or surgically placing dental implants. One of the other big hurdles is a lack of instrument. So cost of getting into the implant game is relatively high. The basic implant oral surgery starter kits can run up to $5,000 or $6,000, and implants can cost $300 to $400 to place. So there might be $10,000 just in supplies to even begin placing implants. And so, most dentists think, is there a return on that? Is there an ROI in those implants that they can see profit their practice? Because, no one wants to get into this as a hobby and spend the time and stress of doing implants and either not make money or lose money. So that's another barrier, is the cost of entry into the game, as I see it. And then the third might be just the fear of doing something wrong, or the fear of hurting a patient, or the fear of complications or repercussions, or lawsuit. So, dentists may be afraid of backlash from their specialist or their peers or their patients. And I think, those three main objectives are what's keeping general dentists out of placing implants and out of really successfully restoring implants. So those are the main barriers that I hope to break down with the show. With the podcast. And obviously we're not going to get to all those today or even the next couple episodes. That might take weeks or months or years, but my hope is to break down all the barriers, get as much information out there, and help the progress of implants in the dental field. So my recommendation to people wanting to get started placing implants but don't have the equipment, don't have the training, and haven't overcome the fear of litigation or the fear of their peers would be to just start getting really comfortable doing oral surgery. What I wanted to do was extract every tooth that came into my office, learn how to do surgical extractions, learn how to cut bone and place healing membranes or bone, and get very good at suturing, place sutures in every extraction that I did, not just for the sake of healing, but to get comfortable placing sutures, get comfortable seeing the blood and peeling back the tissue and seeing the anatomy and learning how to deal with these surgeries that they don't teach you in dental school, and to make small steps becoming the very best extraction and suturing and injection giving, numbing dentist that I can. And so when you can pull every tooth in the mouth predictably without hurting and suture it back precisely, that is the first step necessary into implant surgeries. Because until those surgery techniques are mastered, beginning implant surgery shouldn't even be thought about. So the next step might be to start creating sites for future implant placement. Start learning how to do socket preservation grafts and figure out a 1-year plan to start taking as many CE classes as possible, in local or regionally in your area that requires little time away from home and cost out of pocket as possible. The other thing I would do would be to invite all the major brand implant reps in your office, ask them for training, ask them for CE, ask them for support, ask them what kind of deals they have on implant kits, and figure out what all the costs are for all the brands, the name brand starter kits, and figure out who's going to really be in your corner with your best interests, so that when that time comes, when you need a part or when you need advice or when you need that rep there that day of surgery, or when you need to borrow a kit, you're going to know you've got someone you trust, not just someone who's looking at you to sell you things. And that's a good way to start looking at implant dentistry and get your fingers wet in thinking about the next step. Learn how to treatment plan and how to sell case acceptance for implant cases, and look to that next step, because it's not a step you're going to take overnight. But if you set a 1, a 2, and a 5-year goal, I believe dental implant placement can be in the wheelhouse and armamentarium of any general dentist that loves and feels comfortable doing oral surgery. So that's my hope for this show, is to interview as many people as I can on the topic and share as much knowledge as possible about how to integrate dental implants into the general dental practice.